In 3, 2, 1. Just kidding, I already started recording. Welcome to Beerfield, where we actually verified YouTube was working this week. I am your host at Beerfield Hop with 2 P's, as always, joined by the esteemed, astounding, looking good in a beanie, bearded gentleman himself at Beerfield Theory, Dan Thurston Theory.
I mean, I am pretty thirsty. I am, spoiler alert to what I'm going to be talking about. I am drinking an Nitro Irish Stout, because it's
Nice.
You got to go with the theme of the time of year.
I didn't,
it's fine. There's so much excitement because of this week that, we have a whole dedicated idea to what this episode was going to be, and then the NFL was like, "Nah, fam."
So now
we're just going to shit on literally everything.
Yeah, so now it's only going to kind of be that. I'm not thirsty, and it's because I started with a personal trainer this week, and one of the first recommendations was drink a gallon of water a day. So I've been doing that, which means I've been peeing a lot, which means that since this is a live show and we don't edit it, I'll probably pee a couple times in the middle of the show. And also, my arms are killing me, so if you see the microphone get lower and lower because my desk is going lower and lower so I can actually reach my keyboard, mind your business. We're doing some combine reaction. The NFL combine's over, so I'm sure you saw 90,000 tweets about, Kenny Pickett's hand size and Isaiah Spiller being terrible. So we'll get into all that. And then kind of let you know who helped, who hurt. We won't do a full rookie preview. It's kind of going to be your introduction to names and how some people athletically profiled, with full rookie stuff coming here at the end of the month. End of next month. Right?
No, it should be end of this month.
Hold on, I got it pulled up. Let me look.
Well, we have 2 weeks. I'm sure it's either late April. Should be mid-April.
It'll be mid-April. It's a month away, is what it was.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, because we're doing free agent reactions next week, and then we're going to do a beer episode, and then we'll cover some team needs in the draft, and then we'll get to the actual draft episodes in mid-April before the actual draft, and then a draft reaction episode. So, for those that thought we never planned anything, we do actually plan some things.
We try. I mean, we always have an outline. Mm-hmm. That's about it.
Josh Larkey was supposed to be on this week, but he couldn't make it. So, he's out.
Me not ask.
He's out wrestling bears barehanded. So
he's out.
We'll try to get.
He's actually out becoming a TikTok
sensation,
influencer over there
by wrestling bears.
Larkey.
By wrestling bears. So we'll get him on the show next time. All right. I babbled long enough, don't you think? We got plenty to talk about in the news section. We'll get to all of that. It's not like anything's happened in the NFL world this week.
Nothing. It's been very quiet. Literally. Quiet.
What's fueling Beerfield?
All right, Dan, who is making that Nitro Irish Stout?
I am drinking Breckenridge's Nitro Irish Stout. This is Breckenridge is out of Colorado. One of the very popular and world known, I guess, or known breweries here in the United States. But this is St. Patty's Day. It's a week out, and it's time to to pop up some of the Irish themed beers, whether it be red ales or ambers. Actual Irish stouts.
Anthony said he'd be right here, by the way.
I saw that.
We're going to have a pop-in guest at some point in this episode, by the way.
Got pop-in guest with some news attached to it.
Definitely some news attached to it.
Excited.
So at this point, Maplewood is rivaling Distill for the most appearances on this show because I love them, and every time I see something new, I'm inclined to grab it. And as it turns out, I forgot to go beer shopping. I was trying not to put them on again because I feel like I've had them on like 3 times this year already, and it's March. But
are you trying to tell me that you work for them now? Is that why they're about their rival? Maybe they're about their rival still.
I would volunteer for them, honestly. I mean, if they were closer, like their stuff is that good. It's just I have a hard on for Maplewood. I don't know how else to put it. I got wood for Maplewood. That should be a T-shirt.
It really should be.
I'll let him in just a second. So I'm drinking a dark Czech lager.
I almost picked this
This
up.
is called In Dark Trees. So I'll let you know what I think about it. And ladies and gentlemen,
Without further ado, hopefully we'll see.
hey,
Oh,
you got the background and everything. We're fancy today. Like, Anthony, we're used to you like in line at a restaurant or walking through the Dominican or whatever it is you're doing. We got actual in the studio Anthony today.
This man showed up.
He did.
He's trying to outdo us on our own show.
We're mid
respect.
We are mid episode, by the way. So, like I said, we do it live. No, you're good.
No, that's more my fault for not dropping a time.
Dan didn't confirm anything, so we do it live, like we told you. So we're just like we're gonna go, and if he shows up, he shows up. We've done that to people before too. So anyway, welcome. So just to catch you up, all we've done so far is intro and tell people what beer we're drinking. So
okay.
I haven't gotten into any of the actual NFL stuff or anything like that, and we will announce what we have to announce in the news section. Dan, would you say that's bigger news than anything else that happened in the NFL this week?
You know, with this being one of the quietest lead ups to to NFL free agency, I figured our news is probably
actually
the most important news that has dropped in the NFL space this entire
I think
week.
This week's news segment deserves something we don't do every time anymore.
News.
We don't do the news drop nearly as much anymore because we just kind of smooth transition. I think this deserves it. So you will notice we said we got some news to announce. Are we doing this now?
Yeah, let's do now.
Right now? Okay.
Yeah.
We said we got some news to announce. We have partnered up the FF Face Off and the Face Off Sports Network. So, and their family of podcasts. So let Anthony tell you about us. I was going to say them, but we'll let Anthony tell you about us here in a second. But just so you guys know, what does that change for you, our listeners? Well, I mean, you're going to get some new graphics probably that like have their logo on it too because we're part of them now. You're going to get actually, that's probably the only thing that's going to change. You're going to get some new graphics. The rest of this, you'll be able to find Dan and I writing on occasion as well. But other than that, nothing changes. You'll still get the podcast the same place. We'll still be on YouTube the same place. Same content, same style, same delivery, same everything else. So it's something that we've wanted to do for a while is find a podcast network and a fantasy sports network to latch onto to help grow the listener base and grow our interaction and everything. And we filled an area that they didn't have filled yet, and it worked out. So, Anthony, why don't you get the people up to speed with you? What you guys are doing over there?
Listen, we were kind of like you guys for a very long time at the FF Face Off, and we were kind of floating. I was part of Gridiron Experts for a long time, but the Face Off really emerged as its own brand. We've tried the website thing out 2 other times, and it's a lot of work. It was me and Mike Hoff, really. So this past off season, we decided to partner up with Aaron Schill, and that was the best thing that ever happened to the brand. He's outstanding on the website, and we've expanded outside of fantasy football. We're doing betting. We're doing really all sports, NASCAR picks, you name it. We're doing it right now. And I'm happy to have Beer Fuel now part of the network, doing Dynasty content, adding a little bit of lifestyle content with their different beer reviews and things like that. We want to do more lifestyle things. We have the mental health podathon. So really, we're trying to do big things here, and really excited for things to come.
And right there, you guys can see the fit. If you've been following the show for a while, you know that we branched off and started to talk a little bit more betting, a little less start-sit. From a casual perspective, we started talking a lot of underdog sports stuff. And, over-unders, by the way, best way to bet that I found all season. I made a boatload of money using Underdog. We're not sponsored by them. The face-off, I think, is. I saw it on the partner page. But that's just a free plug because I made a boatload of money on Underdog last year.
Yeah. Oh, man, team unders all day.
It was almost as much as that $1 million I made on YouTube. Dig. I didn't make $1 million on YouTube, guys. But, also the mental health podathon, we've done full episodes on burnout in the industry with Stompy, Sam Lane. We've talked about mental health and the importance of that a lot last year with Calvin Ridley when he left, with some of my own struggles with that have come out on this show. And you've also heard us talk other sports on this show too. We've forayed into disc golf a couple times. MLB lockout ended. If we didn't have so much NFL news to get to, I doubt that might have been the lead in on this one, because we try to cover major happenings in some other sports as well, just to touch on it. So yeah, it's a great fit, and we're excited for it. And it'll be more kind of gradual. I'm not running out to write articles today, but as stuff comes out, and we'll tweet it out and let you guys know as we figure this out and move forward. So we're happy to be part of it, and Anthony, we're happy to have you here to talk some football.
Yeah, it's been pretty busy here the past couple of days. I think this is unprecedented for an NFL offseason, and we're not even officially into the new league year.
Yeah. So clearly what he's talking about is that JaMychal Hasty and Nate Sudfeld re-signed with the 49ers. Nate Sudfeld on a fully
biggest news of the week.
Nate Sudfeld on a fully guaranteed deal. So
that's fully guaranteed.
That's got to be what we're talking about. No. We'll just start from the first news that broke this week, and then we'll jump around a little bit through, just because I have this in an order. It's not any order that means anything. It's just an order. So Calvin Ridley, let's start there. Suspended for at least 2022 for betting on games while he was away from the Falcons. And Twitter, of course, always has an opinion.
Yep.
So naturally, we're going to have one too. And my opinion on this is the punishment doesn't fit the crime. I don't think it should have been not punished, because Pete Rose is a prime example of this, where you bet on games in a league you play in, you should be punished because you can directly impact the outcomes. And if you're doing it when you're not with the team, what's to say you weren't doing it when you were with the team? But in line with some of the domestic violence, and other things that, DUIs, actual dangerous things, criminal things that happen, you're saying the integrity of your game is more important than the conduct of your players by doing this and taking the stance at a full season, maybe longer suspension. And that's the part that I don't agree with, especially since what they can prove is that it was only while he was away from the team, not on the field, not affecting games, and betting the Falcons to win, not lose.
So I'll give my thoughts on this too. I think the suspension is fine, just given the importance of nipping gambling in the ass from professional athletes, gambling in their professional, the sport that they're playing in. Obviously, the biggest problem is it's the fact that it looks like the NFL doesn't care as much about punishing domestic violence offenders. By Ray Rice's, when that happened, back in 2014, the initial suspension was 2 days before the video got out to the public, because Goodell got the video early, and he saw that and said, "Yeah, it's about 2 games." Like that. Like that's the most fucked up part is when a player like Ridley, who clearly made a massive mistake and should clearly be punished by it, just like he got more games initially, and then the first real big case of domestic violence within the NFL
he got
space.
More games initially than Greg Hardy, who choked his girlfriend on a pile of guns.
Like,
and then had his suspension reduced.
Yeah. And to me, that's where the biggest problem lie in. I want to try to not compare them, because I still think Ridley deserves what he got, because I think it's more of a bigger, it's setting the right precedent. It's just, it looks even worse because of how the NFL treats other problems in the NFL. Like, handles their own suspensions. And I think that's where I'm trying to grab to. That's clearly the wrong fucking message where, yeah, he beats his girlfriend, he chokes his girlfriend, he beats this, that, and the other. Half a season, maybe. Like, we don't want to ruin his career by any means. Like, I think that's, again, this highlights even more just how fucked up Goodell is and how the NFL has handled this problem the last almost 10 years now.
This isn't, just looking back in NFL history, I just pulled up a site, 1963, Alex Karras and Paul Hornung each got suspended for the entire year for betting on NFL games. So this is not the first time that they've suspended a player for a year, for a season for betting. But since 1963, society has changed. Things are more acceptable. Things are no longer acceptable. Yet the NFL is still suspending people for a full season for betting. But just like you guys said, domestic abuse, 4 games, first offense.
Yeah. Well, in a season for betting, and I think that the situations are situational. I say it on the show a lot. It's my favorite McAfeeism. Situations are situational. And the situation here and what he got caught doing was he wasn't even impacting the outcome of the game, and he wasn't betting on his team to lose, and I don't think that's for nothing. Dan, I don't disagree that they need to nip this and crack down on it, because otherwise players will go the other way and fix it so that they pull in money. I agree with everybody that said it was the worst bet ever because he bet $1,500 to lose $11 million.
Yeah,
but I do think that this is, given how it compares to other things the NFL has punished people for, and really the situation of what it was strong. I think they could have sent a little bit lighter of a message. I mean, suspend him for half the season.
And that may be what happens. So, like,
if they appeal it,
maybe Goodell, sees this as a way to put the hammer down, knowing that Ridley's camp will come and ask for reduce and try to get it appealed. But the big thing is beyond this is how you led the news section with it. It's at least they're going to investigate the shit out of this.
Yeah.
Because it's starting to sound like Ridley has a gambling problem, which
unless you ask him, in which case he doesn't have a gambling problem. He bet $1,500, and you and I probably bet that this past season.
Well, just don't tell my wife that. But anyway, it's just with how bad it is. But let's look to his dynasty value, though. Obviously, we got to talk about fantasy implications, see what it is.
So,
I'll go ahead.
It sounds like he was on the move. I just wanted to throw that in there as well before we get to dynasty value to set the stage. It sounds like he was on the move. Eagles were allegedly close to a deal. Props to the Falcons for negotiating in good faith and pulling back on all of that when they knew the investigation was happening.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It takes the time off for mental health, which I don't think should be an indictment, but a lot of people thought it was retirement. But then you're suspended for a year on it. You're going to be 2 years removed from the last time you played, and you were really staged for a big breakout season, but you have yet to have that big breakout season. It's probably going to be a prove-it deal somewhere, and I think that his dynasty value is, probably somewhere in the mid-20s at this point. I think that he's down towards the mid to back end of the wide receiver 2 range right now.
He might be even further. He'll turn 30 that year. He could come back, right? If we don't see any reduced suspension or anything like that, or nothing reduced or extended out longer, you're looking at age 28, 29, and we don't know where he's going to play if he doesn't get traded. In between that time, it's up in the air. What are your thoughts, Anthony?
I'm all over the place here with Calvin Ridley. If you have a really deep dynasty roster and you can get him and basically steal him, roster him. But like in most dynasty leagues, if you're not playing with deep rosters, I don't know if you can roster him right now. You're saying this age thing, and this reminds me of like Josh Gordon.
Yeah.
When Josh Gordon, he's an excellent receiver, and he has all his off the field problems, and then he comes back later. And people are expecting to get the same guy from all those years ago. It's just when you're away from the game, no matter how old you are, what game shape, you're not in football shape. You're not in game shape all these years. And I don't think that player is ever going to be the same again. And is Ridley that much of an elite receiver now to say, you know what, let me go because just in case he comes back, I'm going to get wide receiver 1 production. You're not even barely getting that now.
It's not an Antonio Brown situation, and
right.
You're away from the game for a year and then come back. You're not in game shape.
I'd rather roster Antonio Brown right now and Gronk over Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, you're away from the game.
Guys that might not play.
Well, and they were elite talents when they did it, and Ridley hasn't proven that he was an elite talent beforehand. So now here we are, and if you want to know, how that can kill your career, just ask Le'Veon Bell, who never rebounded from his year off.
Well, that and he stepped away because of mental health, right?
Ridley?
What's to say? Yeah. Ridley, sorry. What's to say that within a year that he'll be? What's gonna keep him from wanting to step away again? Like clearly something happened, at some point within X amount of days, months, years, that led up to this moment. And now, 2 years removed, a year removed, he comes back and we don't know where, that mindset is. I know it's a
slippery slope argument. And
and I'm not trying to make an argument to it. It's basically legit. Where does teams value him? And then how do teams value what happened with him stepping away when comparing it to now his gambling with this gambling situation?
So I will say that's valid in the sense that the NFL is still, even though it's gotten better in the last decade or so, still seen as that tough guy sport where, if you're not mentally tough, as people call it, which I do think they're moving away from that. At least the players are to a degree. Front offices, though, you're right. They're still the bootstraps generation that owns these teams and are living in the front office, and you don't have, and mental health isn't an excuse, which is bullshit. But I hope that, I sincerely hope that gambling wasn't a vice that Ridley chose to deal with that, as people often do when there's something else going on. I hope that while he was away, he actually got the tools that he needed to be able to cope with and deal with whatever he was dealing with, because those make a world of difference if you can take the time to focus on you and implement those tools. And I hope that that's not the reason. I hope that it's gambling and it's the on-field production not being elite that lands him a prove-it deal. I hope that we don't get leaks, and we will. I'm sure we will, but that we don't get leaks 2 years from now that are focused on the mental health aspect and that being why he stepped away. But you're not wrong to call it out, because it's the way the league's been for however long.
It's until it's shown to us otherwise, we have to assume that's how it's going to be moving forward, which is, again, sad. But steps are being made into the right direction with players taking their mental health more seriously.
We're not there.
It's just that it's when you get a player of Ridley's caliber steps away, and then this type of news breaks out, there's some fear that it's going to move that momentum a little bit backwards now. And like you said, I hope it's not the case.
Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts on Ridley, Anthony, before we move on?
No. I think we covered everything on Ridley right now. I mean, it is an unfortunate situation. The whole mental health thing with Ridley, and now the gambling thing, because addicts and mental people dealing with mental health issues. As I'm a recovering addict, and I have obviously mental health issues or whatever, and you use things to cope, but I don't know. We can't immediately assume that that's what Calvin Ridley was doing, unfortunately.
Right. It could have just been a one-off thing, like on a whim.
And that's open. And the NFL will do its investigation. And I think that's where, and that's why you hear the at least 1 year. They'll do what they need to do given the information they find.
All right, Bears traded Khalil Mack to the Chargers, 2022 second and 2023 sixth-round pick. This is here because I'm a Bears fan and I want to talk about it. So,
go ahead.
A lot of people thought the return was light or don't like this trade, and I'm the opposite, kind of. It's a 31-year-old defenseman. You got the Chargers to take the entirety of that contract on a team that desperately needs to rebuild around Justin Fields. Dan, you've heard it a lot on this show where I've talked about the Bears defense being old and their key players being upwards of 30 outside of Jalen Johnson and Eddie Jackson and Roquan Smith. I mean, your pass rushers were Akeem Hicks, Robert Quinn, and Khalil Mack, all over the age of 30. You've got solid secondary pieces. You've got a solid middle linebacker. You're switching to a 4-3 base. So get some youth in on the pass rush front. Get somebody to take on that full contract from Mack. You saw the tweet that was in one of our group chats earlier. It's going to give the Bears $123 million in cap space next year as of right now, which is a boatload to work with on a team that has a lot of holes. Could they have gotten more? Maybe if he hadn't played if he hadn't missed the back part of last year to injured with a foot injury for a bigger guy, which at 30 plus years old, it's not easy to come back from. The performance was still there. Do I hate the 6th round pick? No, because the Chargers took the entirety of the contract.
And just how they're shaping up their salary cap for next year. That post that right now they have $131, $million, below the cap. So this is a team that if they hit on a couple of picks this year and really can develop those young players and get their young nucleus that they need, you can go out and spend next year and really put forth a roster that could be competitive
playoff team.
Right when Rodgers leaves the NFC, which is why I think it's a great move. I get why Bears fans are upset, but it's the wrong thing to be upset at. I mean, it's a steps in the right direction, and you just hope that the draft picks that they make work out. I mean, as a Vikings fan, I have to not hope so much, but seeing how this could work out right when Rodgers is ready to retire or leave Green Bay, it's going to fit out perfectly for that next, for when the Bears are ready to really hit their next window.
When it comes to the compensation that Bears got for Khalil Mack, this front office did not trade for Khalil Mack.
Right.
Nope.
So right now, this front office, to most Bears fans, should look like heroes because they are creating cap space for the future. And let's face it, Khalil Mack, he's a regressing talent, still a really great talent, but he's not the same guy who garnered all those, that high draft capital a few years ago. So I think they're doing the right thing, moving off of Khalil Mack, moving off the contract. The Bears are rebuilding. I know, Aaron Rodgers did not leave, like you guys said. The Bears aren't going anywhere, and they're not going anywhere fast with Aaron Rodgers in this division for at least the next 2 years. So bring pieces in. Maybe they turn one of those draft picks into a younger version of Khalil Mack, who's going to be there for the next 8 years. Not a guy who's, 31 years old and coming off of an injury.
Yeah, and
absolutely.
That's exactly my place on it. It's you need pass rush, you need linemen, you need secondary help, outside of Johnson and Jackson. You need outside linebackers. You need receivers, and you need playmakers. Because right now all you got is Darnell Mooney. So the way you do that is you acquire currency. Currency is cap space and draft picks. You got now you have a couple second rounders this year, and we know you can find value in the second round and the third round. So you've got currency, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's not the only move they make. If Robert Quinn goes, wouldn't be shocked. I think he's coming off the season he had. I think he's their other most valuable trade chip, and it's the same situation. He had been in regression up until last year in Sean Desai's defense, and older player.
Now, in the same breath here, right, you take Khalil Mack, and now he has Bosa on the other side.
Yeah.
So I remember when 2 years ago, because I'm a Cowboys fan, Robert Quinn had a terrific career at the Rams, goes to Miami, he kind of flutters a little bit, goes to Dallas for one season and just blew up. And then he went to Chicago, and it's like, oh, wow, like he really rejuvenated his career. No, well, he had Khalil Mack on the other side, and Robert Quinn, who was a little bit older, had a really good season in Chicago. Now Khalil Mack's going to go with Bosa on the other side. We're going to see, I think we see a regressing Khalil Mack put up double-digit sacks, something he hasn't done in, 2 seasons?
Yeah.
Because of the presence of Bosa.
And you have offensive lines in that division that are not particularly, strong. So it's a great move by the Chargers because now Mahomes and spoiler alert Wilson are in Denver. So
yep, and it solidifies the defense, which was, the offense was never the problem. Not really, most of the time, not the problem last year. You telegraphed it, but we won't jump right there. A couple throwaway notes. Ravens re-signed Tyson Williams to a 1-year contract, just something to be aware of in that carousel of running backs. Yeah, it's just crowded. The Chargers re-signed Mike Williams, 3-year deal worth $60 million, so he will still be operating alongside Keenan Allen there. They keep that intact. Josh Reynolds back to Detroit on a 2-year deal. He showed some rapport with Jared Goff down the stretch a little bit. So I still expect them to try to address receiver, but with Reynolds and St. Brown, they're one receiver away from not an explosive offense, but at least better than they look going into last year.
I think it also spells the potential, I wouldn't say end because they really didn't get much going. With Quintus Cephas, they re-signed Josh Reynolds. They have a breakout in St. Brown, and I think most people expect them. I think they have 5 picks in the top 70. Something like that, something insane like that they'll likely take a receiver with one of those picks.
Mm-hmm. And Hawk will be back, and
Swift will be healthy-ish.
and Swift should be healthy-ish. So they'll tool up. Bears might finish last in that division, and I'm okay with it.
No, we'll see. You're probably right.
Aaron Rodgers stated his intent to stay in Green Bay as we telegraphed it. No official reports on contract yet. There were reports of a 4-year, $200 million contract being signed. Those were refuted by Pat McAfee, who we know has a good relationship with Aaron Rodgers, and then later Aaron Rodgers himself stating that the contract had not been signed, and Devontae Adams was franchise tagged. So Rodgers, it sounds like he will sign. I don't know if he's just kind of waiting around, and I don't know. We'll see what the money is. A lot of people are wanting to rush to call Rodgers an egomaniac, but he ain't signed yet, so you might be surprised.
Oh my God! You just think the greatest long con, convince the entire world you're going back, and then retire. Literally have everything saying that you're coming out, that you're coming back. Like, no, I'm good now. I'm fine.
He learned from Favre.
Yeah. Again, I don't know why a quarterback would want to leave the NFC North to join the AFC West. So I always felt like the Broncos move would have been a pipe dream. They found a way to get the other guy.
I have it's because, you brought up Aaron Rodgers' ego, and he has an ego, but you know who else has an ego? Russell Wilson. And I think because Russell Wilson, he's not as brash as Aaron Rodgers, not as condescending. And I love Aaron Rodgers. I'm an Aaron Rodgers guy.
I think he's great.
But he is what he is.
Yeah.
He's a little bit condescending. So is Colin Cowherd. I love both of them. And Russell Wilson always tries to be like that. It always seems like he has that like really nice, let Russ cook type of demeanor. Meanwhile, he wants to be the guy. He wants to be the reason why a team wins and a team wins a Super Bowl. And if he goes to Denver and wins a Super Bowl, it's not going to be because of anything else, because they drop Russell Wilson, and just like Matthew Stafford, he's going to get that type of treatment. And that's what Russ wants. That's what he wants this whole time.
Yeah, and he gets to go through the fucking. Russ. He gets to go through the fucking gauntlet that is of Mahomes and Herbert.
That's going to be within its own division.
That's why, it makes sense for Rodgers. Like, he's getting up there in age. You just watch Brady retire. Obviously, his deal came out before the Wilson news, but no, Wilson's gone.
Well,
it just makes for a far easier path and less destructive path, because those games in the playoffs are going to be fucking brutal.
And
Rodgers is just going to has to go through the Rams.
So another spoiler alert, though, right? Another team just had a quarterback spot open that's a weak division that.
The other QB trade.
the other QB trade that's a weak division that now has cap space, and you got to wonder if that maybe changes anything a little bit.
Maybe.
I haven't seen it. I've not seen the rumor. I'm starting it right here. Aaron Rodgers is going to pull a fast one and end up with the Colts somehow.
Oh no! He wants to go to Tennessee at that. He bought that property in Nashville. I hope so.
Pat McAfee's going to be behind it.
I have a love-hate relationship for Rodgers. A lot more hate than love, but every now and then, it's been kind of fun to watch him play. Like, he soaks up the villain role so well.
He's a heel. I love it.
He is. Mm-hmm. He's played. He's like, he knows he's a heel card, and he's fine with that. He's gotten even better. Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. His Aaron freaking Rodgers. Russell Wilson, aforementioned, traded the Denver Broncos freaking haul going back to Seattle. So it's Wilson, a 4th rounder, for Drew Locke, Noah Fant, Shelby Harris, 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and a 5th. So Seattle in a rebuild, 2 firsts and 2 seconds will help that. Drew Locke gives you a bridge quarterback and gives him a change of pace to maybe see if there is anything there, which is exactly what you want out of a bridge quarterback. Noah Fant gives him an elite tight end.
And there's now been some small rumors, but it's starting to pop up that Seattle may also be in play for Mr. Watson himself, which kind of fit.
We'll see what happens tomorrow.
But we'll see
with the grand jury indictment. So we'll see. Panthers are also linked to Watson. Every team that needs a quarterback is going to be linked to every quarterback that might be available too. So,
absolutely.
Wilson to Denver. There's some nice synergy here, though. Obviously, Jerry Jeudy has some good synergies with Tyler Lockett on paper, not in athletic profile, because reasons. Tyler Lockett's a lot more athletic, but either way, synergy and how they're used. Cortland Sutton, DK Metcalf have a nice round of synergy as contested ball guys. And in deep threats, he gets an upgrade in Tim Patrick. And you're going to see the Denver offense go a lot of the ways of the Rams offense, I think, with the upgraded quarterback and the talent that they have there.
In the division that they play in, Mahomes, Herbert, even, Carr.
Oh, yeah.
Even with the good defense, there's going to be a lot of throwing. Russ had to say if he wanted to waive his no trade clause. So I'm sure there were some conversations with how the offense is going to be ran with him there. Should be the opposite of Seattle. But, you get guys like Alberto, which we know have seen his value skyrocket, given how athletic he is from the tight end spot.
Javonte Williams, you got a running game, so you're not one-dimensional.
Yeah, this offense is going from a mediocre scoring offense to what it looks to be at least top 7, and then just given how I expect this team to play a little more up tempo, it could be even higher. And then you can get a guy like KJ Hamler who can really take the top off. He can remain healthy. This is one of the deepest offensive playmaker cores in the entire league. And it wouldn't shock me if they decide to bring back Melvin Gordon on a 1-year deal as let's ride this now that we have everything in place from a cap point for money stand wise, to combine, run that back with them for for maybe a year, try to convince him to take a little bit less as he's familiar with the offense, and then just have, that entire offense would just be insane. And you can really see them push for the playoffs easily. You can go ahead and just jump in whenever you want.
Wilson thoughts? We don't. Yeah.
Yeah, I am not normally the biggest Russell Wilson guy. Great player, elite quarterback, but he just rubs me the wrong way for whatever reason. But I am all in on this move to Denver because what I was saying earlier about Russ wants it to be about him. He has an ego. I think that's the reason why I'm buying into Russell Wilson and the move. Of course, he's getting upgraded defense. The offensive line isn't great in Denver, but he's used to playing behind a bad offensive line. Tremendous running back upgrade, the best running back presumably Russell Wilson will have since Marshawn Lynch. Receivers wise, I think they're pretty even in terms of the top 2 receivers, but in terms of overall depth, he gets an upgrade in Denver. Arguably Tim Patrick, I'd put him up there with Jerry Jeudy until I see Jerry Jeudy do more. I think Tim Patrick, especially in fantasy for the price, is my number 1 receiver target there.
The forgotten
Albert
man.
This is a complete personnel upgrade with the Denver Broncos, and because Russ wants it to be about him, and think about all the criticism he's going to get if this is a failure. I think Russ knows it has to work. I think he has it in him to make it work. So I'm all in on this move, and you have to sprinkle a little bit on Denver's Super Bowl odds right now. We could be looking at, which, can you imagine? So that was my cat just went after me. I scared him.
It's okay.
I
thought you were just really excited.
Can you imagine if we get a Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers Super Bowl? Because now it can happen, and apparently they don't like each other.
I wonder why.
But can you imagine that we get a Super Bowl with these 2 guys, 2 biggest moves in the offseason that happens, before the new league year even starts. I think that's would be terrific for the NFL and really, really great for the media.
That's what they want. Who would you guys rather have now? Let's talk about some of the playmakers too for Denver here. Obviously, a big bump for Sutton and Jeudy. Those are the 2 most talked about pieces. Who would you rather have in Dynasty between those 2, Sutton and Jeudy, moving forward?
I think I'd rather have Sutton. He's proven with good quarterbacks. He flashed when he was with Locke, not Bridgewater. I think Wilson fits his style. We know Wilson's got the downfield shots. It's kind of why Seattle's receivers were mostly relevant. It's Sutton by a tick for me.
I'm also going to go with Cortland Sutton here. And again, nothing against Jerry Jeudy, but we haven't seen him really do it for me, or at least I haven't seen enough to take him over Cortland Sutton. Outside of injuries, I think Cortland Sutton has really flashed, even despite the poor quarterback play, a little bit better than I've seen from Jerry Jeudy. Again, I would put Tim Patrick over Jerry Jeudy right now. At least that, maybe not so much in my rankings because of how we get graded on them, but in a draft, I'm 100% passing on Jerry Jeudy for Tim Patrick. But in terms of Cortland Sutton, it's not even in the same conversation for me.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm the correct answer is Sutton, right? He gets a quarterback that is one of the best deep ball placers in the NFL. That it's obviously aggressive and will take advantage of that, and it just helps open up the field even more. So Sutton, with with an aggressive quarterback like he had in Drew Locke, for his second year when he broke out, it's Sutton by a mile too. And Jeudy, which the crazy part is, I wouldn't be shocked if Jeudy is the one that gets the biggest bump, in for rankings and for dynasty ADP, and Sutton's going to be the one that I think it benefits the most from this. And if he's going to, not be as much to get in redraft leagues, it's going to be even better. And I agree with Tim Patrick too. Really interested to see how the rest of the playmakers fall in line. Albert O, seeing his name just across all of Twitter, and he's kind of reached that massive value boom where he's almost becomes a sell in dynasty because he himself hasn't proven it. He's been injured himself too. And now he's probably third to fourth to fifth on the target pecking order. But as we said about tight ends, all they got to do is stay healthy to be a top 12. And if all can stay healthy and be, that red zone guy, that outside the 20s guy for Wilson, that's going to see mismatches up and down the field, that there's some good chances for him to have some boom weeks.
Also, I think it's worth just throwing out there that Tim Patrick's going to be the best value. He's the forgotten man in all of this conversation. It's kind of like Tyler Boyd was when Jamar Chase was drafted. And while it may not be boom, it's still a very usable piece on what should be an explosive offense on the cheap.
He will be value. Absolutely.
Anything else on Russ? Or I guess we had to talk to. We haven't talked a lot about this. So the other piece of this we got to touch on to cover it all. Lockett and Metcalf. Assuming Drew Locke is a starter, because that's what we have to assume today. We don't know what they're going to do. What does that do to DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett? Today, on this date, March 10th, 2022.
I mean, Metcalf was a great receiver with Geno Smith, and I don't see how that's any worse than when Drew Locke, who helped unlock, Sutton by focusing in on him as one of his lone targets. What's that?
Is that an intentional pun?
Yes.
Drew Locke helped unlock?
Help unlock, which is odd to say about Drew Locke. And then, reports of potentially Lockett on the trading block as well. It feels like Metcalf is going to be a part of their second regime, and Lockett, he's getting older in age, is dispendable a bit and not part of the 3-4 year plan that they're likely looking at. So Metcalf, even on, what looks to be bad, he shouldn't have moved down rankings much. You should be trying to target him now with his value going down. He's so hyper athletic, so a dominant deep threat. And Locke, if anything, is going to force feed that. He's going to say the words, fuck it, DK's down there somewhere. And if Seattle with the bad defense against those good offenses and, in the NFC West, they're going to have to throw the ball more. And, garbage time is still worth as many points as regular time. So I want all the DK.
Blake Bortles will agree with garbage time as many points as regular time, by the way.
It made him a top 12 quarterback, 2-3 years straight. So, yeah, he loves garbage time.
Anthony, anything on DK and Lockett?
Who's Seattle's quarterback? And that's what it's going to come down to for me. Pete Carroll, 70-year-old coach. I don't think this is a rebuild. I think there's obviously no Andrew Luck or Joe Burrow in this draft. At least I don't think so. Where you could go up and get a plug and play. This screams, hey, we're going to make a play at Deshaun Watson. I think you can seriously link that because Deshaun also has a no trade clause. I know he has so much hanging over his head, but if he's cleared up this Friday, all of a sudden he's the most valuable quarterback on the market, and he's not. They're not trading to the. Are they really dumb enough in Houston to trade him to the Colts? I would hope not.
No.
But the Colts should at least be picking up the phone to try. But the other logical landing spot we think about draft capital, it's Seattle. I think they're going to make a play for Deshaun Watson. And if you put Deshaun in Seattle and all of his off-the-field stuff's behind him, we're once again talking about the Seahawks in a Super Bowl conversation.
Again, it's one of the easiest paths.
I mean,
the playoffs right now.
They moved on from Bobby Wagner's contract, too. I mean, Deshaun has a big number. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm holding on to my hope that it's Drew Locke because I won't let that dream die.
No, he is. He's one of the three true truthers.
And Matt Hicks is one of the other ones.
Man, you guys. It's all right though.
I do
Soon
it
enough.
So, Anthony,
You're all
to bring
tongue
you
in
up to
cheek
speed,
about it.
I do
It's
it.
fun.
I do it ironically because that's just kind of a thing. It didn't happen. It wasn't ironic at first with like Locke and Bortles and a few others, and then it just kind of became a thing that I have a type, I guess, and my type is not very good. Deshaun Watson, criminal sexual misconduct case presented to a grand jury Friday. More to come on that based on the results, as we talked about. He's very sought after, a lot hanging over him. That'll either ramp those up and get a lot of momentum there or kill it. Bill's
We
great.
should quickly talk about Noah Fant
Okay, double back.
too. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. Sorry.
I was ready to be done.
Well, then fine. We'll just move on then.
Noah Fant's a tight end that has an elite skill set that hasn't broke out yet, and he's going to go to Seattle where the volume should be there, and he'll be third in the pecking order, and I don't know that moves him that much, honestly, yet. That's just my opinion.
Oh, that's fine.
Noah Fant's still Noah Fant. What's your opinion?
That is my opinion.
Okay, Noah Fant's still Noah Fant?
Yeah.
He's not.
What you said.
He's not somebody else. He's not suddenly like.
I mean, I would hope not. Like he's not gonna take off his mask.
He's not
be
suddenly like
be
Jimmy.
like a character from the Scooby Doo show.
He's not suddenly like Jimmy Kleinsasser or anything.
Hey! Don't you fucking besmirch Jimmy Kleinsasser, Mister? I can't leap, but I always try to leap over people.
Not Dennis Pitta. And all of a sudden, he still has his hips. Okay, good. Awesome.
What has Noah Fant shown us to give him all the hype that we give?
He's
super athletic.
He's a tight end that's hyper athletic, and that's all you can bet on.
I would say to make it in the NFL, you have to be pretty damn athletic.
Well, tight end.
I don't get it sometimes.
I
really don't.
With tight ends, it's basically this. There's a type when we drill down into it that basically says hyper athletic tight ends are the ones that can separate themselves from the bunch, and tight ends typically at least have a better chance at breaking out later, which is what makes us quit them less. And the only thing you have to latch onto at tight ends outside of the garbage that's at the position is a boatload of athleticism and Pat Fryermuth. So,
well, that and if they show some production in college, trying to predict tight ends, it's pretty fucking difficult compared to other positions. It's because the transition from college to pros is up there with quarterback, and just trying to teach these hyper athletic tight ends or these move tight ends or just tight ends that have won because there's nobody else to compete them with, to block and to learn blocking assignments, and then to now play up against elites, D line and safeties and linebackers. So it takes them a longer time to produce. That's why guys like Kittle and Pitts, it's so impressive when they break out as early as they do.
That's also why we're still talking about guys like Fant and Ingram, even
OJ Howard.
And OJ Howard is
Irv Smith,
David
Irv
Njoku,
Smith, all these
Irv
tight ends
Smith,
that just got fucking franchise tagged.
It's these guys that still have a chance from a dynasty perspective if you're looking for lottery tickets. You're looking for lottery tickets, you're looking for upside, and athleticism and tight ends is upside, and that's about all you got. It's not often you find a floor guy that's going to be consistent for a lot of years, like an aforementioned Dennis Pitta was, or like a Heath Miller back in the day, or Jack Doyle. Rest in peace.
Rip Doyle.
And
plus,
Fryermuth and Dalton Schultz are probably the closest thing we have to that right now, of that like solid floor.
Remember CJ Fedorovich?
I do remember CJ Fedorovich.
That's a name.
He had 12 concussions.
Yeah.
Oh, God, it's sad.
I'm pretty
solid fantasy guy for a couple of weeks, though.
Yeah, he was. Floor guy. That's what I mean. They just always emerge. They come out of nowhere.
It's like herpes.
Cole Beasley. Bills granted him permission to seek a trade. Speaking of floor guys with actual upside and hyper athleticism, Dawson Knox. Because that's what I was banking on, was Beasley not being there for Knox's target volume to go up and match his touchdown production.
I don't think anyone would be shocked if Beasley leaves. Like I think that was a forgotten a foregone conclusion at
I'll be
this
shocked
point.
if he finds a trade partner.
Yeah. Right.
What's the market for a 33-year-old regressing slot receiver? The Jets?
Dallas might need another one.
Well, that
Go
could
back.
That could be.
It'll be a late August. It'll be a late August edition. He'll get cut by the team that signs him this offseason. And then he'll latch on to some other team like a parasite that he is.
Colts quarterback Carson Wentz traded to the Washington Commanders along with a second-round pick for a second-round pick and a conditional third-rounder that becomes a second-rounder if he plays 75% of his snaps. That sounds familiar.
It's like a lesser Matthew Stafford deal.
Commanders take on, well, and it's the same criteria that it was in his Colts trade. Commanders take on Wentz's contract, now on his third team in as many years. Colts are on their fifth starting quarterback since Andrew Luck abruptly retired.
Thanks, Colts, for ruining Andrew Luck for all of us.
Fourth. I guess Luck is one of the five. So, also, this came out. This is per The Athletic, because I like to give credit. Over the course of the year, some were growing frustrated with what they deemed a lack of leadership, a resistance to hard coaching, and a reckless style of play, which had a role in several close losses. Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, thank you, Roto World or NFL Edge, for the commentary there. The quarterback who learned he was on shaky ground with the organization over the last month reached out to owner Jim Irsay in hopes of setting up a meeting to clear the air. Irsay declined. It's the exact kind of things that were said about Wentz in his final days in Philadelphia. Frankly, sounds unpleasant to work with. It's impossible to see how this will work in the league's most dysfunctional organization. Best of luck, quote, Commanders fans, end quote.
This is good.
There's just so much revealing in that paragraph that I had to include it.
I'm actually really happy that he's going to Washington. It's such a trash franchise because of the owners. We get to watch now Washington fans try to root for the one guy that they fucking hated like 2 years ago.
Is this bad for Wentz, since Rivera will probably use his mobility a little more?
No, this is actually good for Wentz's
That's
fan.
what I
He's
thought,
not going to
too.
move up higher, but I mean, he'll have his Pittman and McLaurin.
I think the floor
He'll have
comes
his-
up a bit.
But yeah, and he'll have his hyper athletic running back in Gibson too. So,
But do you guys think this is going to help? Because for years, the fantasy community is like, well, all Terry McLaurin needs is a quarterback. Is this not a lateral move?
It's a lateral move.
I mean,
It
he's
doesn't
got to
help
be
McLaurin.
better than Heineke.
I mean,
At least the offense should look more productive.
McLaurin.
I mean, at times Wentz.
McLaurin dipped last year with Heineke, though, compared to what he'd done with every other quarterback he'd been with. He did dip last year with Heineke, so I think maybe marginal, but
This is either, to me, this is going to go one way or the other. This is either going to really help Antonio Gibson and hurt McLaurin, or really help McLaurin and hurt Gibson. One of the two are going to have their breakout year with Wentz. It's just a matter of how are they going to run this offense.
I just felt
I
that
think both are going to be fine. If Gibson can get a lot of the check down work, Wentz obviously coming off of his injuries may not be as mobile as, and Rivera may not want him to be as mobile.
I think it helps Logan Thomas.
Well, he's got a
Wow, I like that.
late season injury. Unfortunately, hopefully he comes back in time.
If it doesn't help him, it helps Samus Reyes, who's a random
John
depth-
Bates.
Who's a random Commanders tight end I hitched myself to late last year. I think it was Samus Reyes.
Anyway, I know they have a lot of money tied up in Logan Thomas. Anyway, they bring in Zach Ertz and reunite him with Wentz
Could
on
be.
a cheap 1-year deal.
Might be. I mean,
yeah.
the NFC East is still kind of open, from a division winning standpoint. It's not like I know you're a Cowboys fan,
That doesn't insult me.
no. And also just, wild card spots there. I mean, Washington was in the playoffs, 2 years ago. 6-10. So
I think basically it just
anything can happen in that division. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I think basically it comes down to I want whoever their tight end is. Because the other thing with McLaurin, too, remember, is that McLaurin was an outlier prospect. I'll just say McLaurin's not somebody a lot of us looked at and said, this guy's going to produce at the NFL level. And then he did the first couple of years with bad quarterbacks. Then he regressed last year with a lot of attention on him and a not great quarterback. So, I mean, I don't know. I have a hard time thinking this move moves the needle for me on McLaurin at all. And I got out on McLaurin at the end of last year. So
I don't hate it. I mean, it's Wentz has made these outside clasher guys, respectable for fantasy, and Jeffrey and Pittman, and McLaurin's going to play that same role. Who's also, I mean, he's still a very athletic outside guy. And if Wentz should have a better arm, especially better deep ball than Heineke, and if Rivera can kind of help, tame that down, maybe we will. At least we'll know that McLaurin's not going to cost as what he's cost the last couple of years, especially for redraft. If you don't like him, there's going to be other guys in that range. He's still going to be a good value.
Yes. Should be more of a value. And I think that they add something else to that offense, too. It could be, like you mentioned, Anthony, a deal for Zach Ertz and an upgrade for a more healthy tight end. It could be another receiver opposite McLaurin, which they're desperately missing. I know people are going to hate that because, what about Curtis Samuel, who's the ultimate, what has he ever done? But he had like a 3-week stretch where his target volume was good. That's it. So I think they'll do something else.
If just stay healthy. If not, then yeah. I mean, they don't have anybody else there, so
yeah.
Just like Damian Brown has done anything either.
Stay healthy and then be productive or something.
Do something.
All right, some tag tracking. J.C. Jackson will be a free agent. Quandre Diggs will be a free agent. Chris Godwin, Devontae Adams, Dalton Schultz, Mike Gesicki, David Njoku, and Jesse Bates all tagged.
Wait. Oh, yeah, Jesse Bates. I'm sorry. I'm sitting there thinking of John Bates again. I'm like, what the fuck?
No. A lot of tight ends getting tagged.
All the tight ends.
Is that surprising to anybody or no?
So I was listening to the Decision Point podcast on Matt Kelly's show. Points it out beautifully. It's the value of tight ends cost to what they may get on the open market if they are trying to get that wide receiver money. Tight ends are obviously worth less from a top 5 point, so franchise tagging them is actually a value move, especially for guys like Njoku and Gesicki and potentially Schultz, who may see a higher salary cap tied to them. You can retain them for cheaper. I still hate the fucking Browns for taking Njoku, though. I wanted him to leave and get him away to a franchise that's willing to use him the way that he should be used.
I want to throw this out there to you guys. I know it's a little bit off topic. Do you guys see any possibility, because we're seeing all these splash moves, and we saw it last year with the Julio Jones trade, and I kind of tweeted about it, a Matt Ryan deal this offseason.
Yeah, I just talked to the
If you think of all the teams that need a quarterback and what's out there, and we already said that there's no plug and play guy in this draft, and like a team like the Steelers or maybe the Saints who think they're a quarterback away, Matt Ryan's that guy that is, there a lot of the money is tied up and they're going to have to maneuver that. But look, Wentz was moved and he had his guaranteed money. So these teams and general managers can make it work. Jimmy Garoppolo, Watson, and if they're, signed, or let's say Garoppolo's traded, and let's say the bad stuff, the worst case scenario happens with Watson, all of a sudden Matt Ryan's value in a trade would be the highest it would ever be again.
Yeah. I think it does. When the Wentz trade went down, a coworker that's a Colts fan messaged me and we were talking options, and Matt Ryan's a name that came up is a potential trade candidate. And, it makes sense. The Falcons, outside of Kyle Pitts, don't really have any pieces. They're full rebuild. You have an aging quarterback where, they need draft capital. They're not going to get another window out of Matt Ryan.
It's just so puzzling what they did last draft.
Yeah.
Taking Pitts. To me, them taking Pitts said, okay, they're going to try to go after this division. And then a couple weeks later, we're trading Julio Jones. What?
Yeah. we're trading Julio Jones, and then Ridley steps away, and they're left with Olamide Zaccheaus playing a starting receiver spot. And
I bought into him so bad this season. It was bad.
I apologize.
It was bad.
And
it happens to the best of us.
It does. And you're just, there's nothing. This is a good time to reset the QB landscape. So on a larger scale, right? Who is available? That's one thing that I wanted to talk about on this show with all the moves. So who is still available? You've got Mitch Trubisky, Marcus Mariota, Teddy Bridgewater, Jameis Winston in free agency. I think are the hot four right there.
Right.
You've got so you're running down the list here. Aaron Rodgers hasn't officially signed yet, but for the intents of this conversation, he's not available. Matt Ryan should be available. For the Panthers, I don't think anybody's calling on Sam Darnold, but I'd imagine if they did, he would be available. Jimmy Garoppolo, we know for sure, is available. Derek Carr should be available. We haven't heard the Raiders say he is, but he very much should be.
Absolutely needs to be. The Raiders would be fucking dumb to not try to rebuild, though.
Gardner Minshew and Jordan Love are backups that you have to imagine are available right now. And then Deshaun Watson. And, I guess if somebody wanted to swing a ball bat towards the Ravens, Tyler Huntley.
You guys like Tyler? I love Tyler.
I like Tyler.
I think he's great as a backup. I don't see much of him beyond that, but I think he's a great fit in that backup role behind Jackson as their insurance.
Is there anything to these Colin Kaepernick rumors coming out? Or is this just, I have another documentary coming out? Maybe
it's just the off season, and they always happen. I mean, I've just chalked up that to the fact that it won't happen. But
yeah, probably not.
But
I will say about Matt Ryan, I don't think Atlanta moves him if the Panthers don't get Watson. Look at the NFC South is literally the worst landscape for quarterbacks right now. Ryan, Darnold, Kyle Trask, but maybe Jameis. We don't know. Right now, it's Taysom Hill and Ian Book.
Yeah,
Atlanta had already botched up their rebuild from last year by taking Pitts when both Fields and Mack were on board. They made the odd decision to trade Julio, thinking that Ridley wasn't going to step away, which you would think that there'd be some rumblings to that prior to that, just given how you want to be in tune with your, with your players on your team. I don't think Atlanta trades Matt Ryan. I think Atlanta is actually going to make the fool's goal attempt to go all in, not really go all in, but to make a run at a playoff run. Because, like the NFC East 2 years ago, a 6-11, 5-12 team, or not 5-12. 7-10 team might win that division this year.
Well, and you make a good point because I look at that and I'm like, but would you try to prolong that when his trade value is as high as it could ever be with that many teams needing quarterbacks to make the playoffs when you don't have a prayer coming out? And then I look at the rest of the NFC and I don't even know that you could say that if they just retooled the offense, not even the defense, if they just retooled the offense, that they wouldn't have a prayer of coming out, because I mean, it's basically the Cardinals, the Rams, and the Cardinals, Rams,
Packers.
Cowboys, and Packers have the most firepower in the division.
And
it's a very weak conference right now.
It is so
very weak.
It's god awful, especially now with Wilson gone. And Wentz, Kirk Cousins is the fourth best quarterback in that conference. Kirk Cousins
behind Rodgers, Ryan, Stafford, and Murray.
I think Cousins is ahead of Ryan. I would put Cousins ahead of Ryan.
Dak,
yeah. So Dak, Dak, Murray, and Rodgers, and Stafford. So yeah, Cousins is your fifth best quarterback.
Yeah, debatable. 5A, 5B. I get what you're saying, though.
Yeah.
Anyway, teams that still need quarterbacks, and just throw a name out here if you think this is where they're going to go. And I'm going to throw out, as I've done most of the off-season, teams that need a quarterback and teams that could bring somebody in to compete. So we'll start with the NFC. The Giants need to bring somebody in to compete with Daniel Jones. Agreed?
Yeah, it'll be Trubisky.
I think it's Trubisky.
Yeah. Brian Daboll fit. liked him last year. It's going to happen.
The NFC North is set. The rest of the NFC East, I think, is set. Agreed.
I can see Cousins. There's rumblings that he's on the block. And just given what other quarterbacks have gotten, you may see Minnesota who wants to relieve cap.
What I'm saying is I'm looking at who needs a quarterback right now, right? And unless the Vikings move him, they're not going to bring somebody in to compete with him or to try to fill him. So
then you're right. Yep.
The Panthers are in need. They're tied to Watson. I don't know what they do. I don't see them bringing in maybe Jameis if they're looking to bring somebody in off the street. Maybe
along with drafting somebody potentially. I think maybe Garoppolo is a part of that. Now, if they can't get Watson, maybe they try to make a run for Ryan, but I can't see an interdivision trade happening.
I'm assuming that just because of what I've seen from the legal analysts out there, particularly the one you retweeted, Dan. I feel bad I can't remember his name. He does a good job of breaking it out.
Yeah, he's great
Davenport.
Yeah, Drew Davenport. Yes.
Thank you. Yes.
I think that there will be an indictment tomorrow. I don't think that, how much further than that does it go? I don't know, but I think there will be an indictment tomorrow, which doesn't clear the Watson roadblocks. So then what do the Panthers do? If Watson's still hanging in limbo, I agree. I think that they draft somebody, and then do you just keep Darnold to compete with whoever you draft, or do you bring somebody else in too and keep the quarterbacks on the roster with, a Jameis Winston or a Mariota or I don't see them bringing Bridgewater back. Somebody in free agency. Yeah, I think it's one or the other.
I expect him to keep Darnold with them picking up his 5th year and just given. I don't know how much money they would save by cutting him. So I would assume if they can't land a Watson or maybe even a Garoppolo, that they'll spend that first round pick on who the top quarterback on their board is.
Did you guys see the rumor about Christian McCaffrey being traded or at least on the block?
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
In the event that they move Christian McCaffrey, if I'm the Panthers, I'm trying to take somebody into the draft and build for the future, or I'm getting another bridge guy if they don't like this year. Let's say they like the 2023 class better and almost like kind of just tanking because there's really, outside of Deshaun Watson, there's nobody that can probably step in there and take that franchise anywhere to save Matt Rule's job. I think this is one of those mulligan years and they're going to blow it up. It's just not good there.
Well, and I think if that's what they decide to do, they don't sign another bridge deal. He's already on the roster, and it's Darnold. I think they just hold on to the cap space and roll with him if they decide that, they're not going to take somebody in the draft. They like next year's class better, and they just want to roll with it. I think that they just stand pat at that point.
Yeah. Yep, I agree.
The Saints need a quarterback. The Bucs need a quarterback, as we just talked about. Saints apparently still in on Winston. They need to draft somebody desperately.
God, like their whole situation seems like their offense is on the verge of needing a massive rebuild, and their defense is still very good, but it's starting to age out. It's kind of like a worse Bears situation at this point, where they don't have their franchise quarterback, and they're clinging to an open division to where, like, even a Winston, may do enough to, to put them in the playoff race for 80% of the season next year and potentially even get it. And then they have to try to retain Michael Thomas, which I don't think they're going to do. And Kamara's been linked to trade rumors as well. And at this point, it'd be smart for them to get out of him at this point anyways, especially given his own legal issues.
Yeah,
that. Yeah, right. That's how fucked up the offseason's been so far. We forget about Kamara. It's Saints are in a really bad spot. Sean Payton leaving, obviously, who knows what the quarterback future looks like, but you have a wide open division right now,
which is why I think they have to quick retool. Which is why you bring back Jameis, draft a wide receiver, and roll.
You have to retool without trying to fuck up your future,
right.
and the allure of having an easy path to the playoffs, even if you don't look like a Super Bowl contender, is very much there because fans and PR, all the money that's made. It's very tough to want to tank. It's very, very tough to tank.
Do they have the personnel to just a quick retool and make the playoffs even in that division? Like, Teron Armstead's a free agent. Marcus Williams on the back end's a free agent. You have Kamara. You don't know Michael Thomas's future. And outside of they don't really have much else at wide receiver.
So we got a glimpse into Michael Thomas's future.
What's their tight end?
Tight end is Troutman.
Troutman.
But you got a little glimpse into Michael Thomas's future when they restructured his contract, I think. I don't think that restructure happens if he's cutting or getting cut or not coming back. We'll find out more, obviously, but they did restructure his deal. So, I don't think that restructure happens if he's gone. And that's why I think that they do. If you have Michael Thomas and you have Alvin Kamara, you have a wide receiver 1, you have an RB1. You've got a defense that even if you lose a key piece of your secondary, right? We just said that J.C. Jackson and some other guys are hitting free agency. I think that they probably can retool with an offensive piece or two and bringing back Jameis and have the defense be good enough to come out of that division at least. But you're right. If you're going to retool on the fly, you got to do it without wagering your future. So whatever you do, you might be able to retool and compete now in that division, but you also need to have an eye towards the future when you do it, which means that you put Jameis on a bridge deal because you don't want to waste that defensive window. So you put Jameis on a bridge deal. You bring in a complimentary piece to Kamara, a real one, be it through draft or otherwise. And you get another wide receiver to go with Michael Thomas. Get an outside guy, and you roll with it. And I think that they can be competitive. And I don't think you have to wager the future to do it if you're the Saints, because the defense is what makes them that close to being able to retool, even with losing a key piece in the secondary.
Yeah. Yep.
Tampa Bay is another interesting one that's losing a lot of key pieces. They tagged Godwin, late season injury though, so he may not be ready to go immediately. Gronk is free agent. Ali Marpet retired, one of their guards. Still a good defense, a good young defense. I thought, Arians has already come out and said that Jameis back to Tampa would not be the best move for the quarterback. So there's a lot.
Fuck you, Arians.
Yeah,
Fuck you.
So there's a lot of what does Tampa Bay do? And again, it's a bad year to have a weak quarterback class because I don't know what Tampa Bay does.
They got to trade for somebody. There's no one in this class that's going to move the needle enough, and they have probably the best set of playmakers on offense than any other teams in the NFC South.
Who you trade
so
for?
Trying to make a move for you could see them trying to make a move for Garoppolo again.
That's who I was thinking.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's if there's going to be eventual links to try to get Matt Ryan, it's all about it. Once one of these teams makes a move for a quarterback, I think it's going to set in stone what the future, what the
divisional trade for Ryan, though. That's where that gets complicated.
Yeah, I think these teams are waiting for one of the other ones to make a play. Like, will that be Watson or Garoppolo, or we wait till free agency to see where Winston lands, where Trubisky, these guys go to, and then maybe we start to see some of these other moves within this division start to play or take more shape. Because right now it's so open.
Mm-hmm.
You would think Tampa Bay would be, in the market for a quarterback as they look at this division like Atlanta does, like the Saints and like the Panthers do, and say we could take this division easily.
Sure.
It's just who's going to be the most aggressive.
Who you're going to get, because they're already out on what I would assume to be the best quarterback in free agency. So they're not picking high enough in the draft to get a guy that's going to be NFL ready. I mean, I don't we won't get into the prospects and where Kyle Trask ranks among them right now. I don't know. That's another team that I don't know what they do, and I'm very interested to see. My bet, Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's my bet.
Return home, baby.
Yep.
Because, I think home for him is like half the league.
Yep. It is. And the 49ers, with Garoppolo being on the move, but that hasn't happened yet, could potentially be in. He's one of the guys that could be filling a role. Other teams that are looking for quarterback help right now, Colts, obviously, we talked about them already. Steelers, I think a lot of people expect them to just try to get one in the draft. But like you said, they're another team that's defensive ready and offensive playmaker ready. I want Jameis to the Steelers. That's what I want to see is Jameis Winston to the Steelers, because I think there's a lot of Big Ben similarities in his prime with the arm strength, the size, and the kind of ability to move in the pocket and push balls downfield. I think that Jameis has some Big Ben traits.
Yeah, I like to see what Pittsburgh does. I mean, I don't like Pittsburgh, but from a fantasy standpoint, given what they have there, that'd be one of my that's the one team I'm looking forward to see who they land and what that's going to make up for, what that's going to look like for your playmakers around them. Deontay and Claypool and Freiermuth and Najee.
Yep. Any thoughts on the Steelers, Anthony?
Quarterback wise, I kind of had my co-host Mike Hoff was actually the first one on this. Jimmy Garoppolo to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
I absolutely love the move because Pittsburgh, to me, they're certainly a team that could probably plug and play at the quarterback position. They have the personnel. Their offensive line needs to get reestablished. They no longer are the unit that they were a few years ago. They lost pieces. Guys retired. I know Villanueva was playing for the Ravens last year. He just retired.
Yep.
So they have some work to do at offensive line, but they still have really, really good offensive weapons. And, of course, a ton of pieces on the defensive side of the ball. So, yeah, maybe you get a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo there. I like more of a Jimmy Garoppolo or – more of a Matt Ryan to Pittsburgh than I do somebody more mobile. So I guess Jameis Winston can fit. I don't know. I'm just not a big Winston guy. But he did matter. To me, he was a game manager in New Orleans, and maybe that's the best Jameis that we're going to see. And from an NFL perspective, yeah, it's not great in fantasy, but if Jameis Winston doesn't have to throw the ball 40, 50 times a game, all of a sudden he's not making all those mistakes. And they have a good enough defense in Pittsburgh to bail Jameis Winston out if he does make a mistake. So that might not be the worst move considering the current quarterback landscape.
No, he had LASIK. That was the reason that he was better, is he had LASIK.
Oh.
That's
sarcasm, I hope.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he has probably the greatest workout drills ever.
Yeah.
That just looks so nuts. Like it makes no fucking sense. It's like, all right, it's gonna work for him.
Excellent motivational speeches.
Eating W's, man.
Ate a W. I could see it. I think that the best version of Jameis we haven't seen yet. This is the shtick, right? But it's really because it's a shtick, which is usually something I kind of believe, but ramped up to 11. And what I believe
it's
is
just how he does about quarterbacks. He just always loves them to 11.
It's just what I believe with Jameis is that if he can take what he learned being a game manager in New Orleans with those reins and then fold that into what he was doing in Tampa, you're going to get the best version of Jameis if you can somehow merge those two things and merge some of that reserved and know when to turn which one on. I think you're going to get a best version of Jameis, and I think that he needed somebody to put the reins on him, which is not an Arians thing to do. Arians will let anybody freaking go. That you're going to see that balance out a little bit in the right situation. Now, Pittsburgh, I think, is a good situation. I think from an NFL perspective, you're right. They can lean on Najee Harris. They can lean on that defense. They don't need a quarterback. The luxury Jameis gives you is if you do need a quarterback with a big arm to try to win you a game, he has it. Unlike some of these other guys like Bridgewater.
And Garoppolo.
Yeah, okay. We want to talk Miami or anything? Let's move on. Have we talked enough quarterbacks?
I think we've given all the quarterbacks.
All right. Yeah, retirements, Villanueva and Jack Doyle. Well, let's do a beer review, and then we'll talk rookies for like 10 minutes before we go home.
Yes.
Beer review.
Dan, go ahead.
All right, again, I am drinking Breckenridge's Nitro Irish Stout. This clock's in at 4.8%. For those of you that may not know, Nitro kind of takes away the carbonation, and it helps to really soften and bring out kind of the fluffiness of these. Not fluffy, creaminess of these. So you get good head retention. You get the fun cascade if it's got the ball inside. But then being an Irish stout, it's already fairly light compared to other stouts, a little drier, using more of the traditional European bitter hops, and then the malt wise. So if you like Guinness, you're obviously gonna like this style of beer. As I'm drinking mine out of a Guinness glass, no less.
Is that on purpose?
Well, yeah, because it's Guinness glasses are fit for nitro, and with nitro you have to hard pour, otherwise you're not going to get the full effect.
Yeah, because you won't get that nice little head.
You won't get the nice little head. Sometimes it can come out even more flat. So, again, if you like Irish stouts, if you like this style of beer, if you like Guinness, Breckenridge should be available in most states and not all states. So,
all right, Maplewood, Maplewood's Dark Check Lager. So a Dark Check Lager is a lager, but it's dark. If you couldn't tell from the name.
Yes.
The way that they get it dark, it's usually a Pilsner malt base. It's done at lager temps, but darker malt in it. Being Czech, the reason it's Czech is the noble hops that are used. So like Saaz, for example. Some of those German European hops that have kind of those really earthy, unique tones, and then your malts are mostly going to be like Bohemian malts, so Munich, Vienna, things like that, are what's going to give it that dark note. Overall, for the beer, you get the body of a lager. It's light, but it's flavorful. It's got a lot of the toasty notes that you come to expect out of your European malts, so a lot of toasty, a lot of bread. As far as the flavor goes, well, I was on the flavor. A lot of toasty, a lot of bread. Dark malts kind of come out in that manner, give just a little bit of like a bitter dark chocolate bite to it. Overall, it's really easy drinking beer. Very crushable. Czech dark Pilsner, or lagers and Pilsners, are probably my favorite style that I've found. You do get some bitterness from the hops. I've found in the last 2 years. You do get some bitterness from the hops off of this, and a little bit of earthy tones from them. So yeah, like most Maplewood beers, it's incredible.
Yep.
All right. All right, we'll probably just do this way. We'll go position by position, just kind of each, if there's a guy that's stock up, stock down, we'll round table and talk about him. I'll go ahead and start. My stock up from the combine. So I'll give a nod to Desmond Ritter, because I'm pretty sure somebody else is going to talk Malik Willis. So I'll give a nod to Desmond Ritter. He clocked in at the best 40 time of any quarterback. I think that what I've read is that in the interview process, he was impressive with his, his makeup, his knowledge, his film breakdown, which is really why quarterbacks are hard to evaluate, because you don't get a lot out of the athleticism. You get a lot of it out of college productivity, and then what happens in meetings. Ritter's one of a big group of maybes. He's highly athletic. The film did leave a little bit to be desired. The college productivity and the body of work is very good. And people could have him really probably rated anywhere from 3 to 7 realistically and still be fine. But I think that, the athletic workout backed out what you saw in film. It's going to give you some nice rushing floor as the NFL moves towards mobile quarterbacks. I think he probably helped his draft stock a bit there.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all with this. Ritter, ran the 9th fastest 40 time, I believe, recorded for quarterbacks since the combine started. And with positive interview remarks, that could help him be one of the quarterbacks that gets traded up for, a la Lamar Jackson style, where one of these teams, one of these fringe needy quarterback teams that didn't get who they wanted, wants to have that 5th-year option, wants to have that, that flexibility. And with Ritter, who fits the running style mold of today's quarterbacks, he's obviously a great value for fantasy, especially if he gets day one capital. It's going to make him rise up even higher and make him easily draftable, in the high end of the super flex drafts, right up there. Maybe not to the degree of Malik Willis, because Willis is going to likely get top 10 to top 15 DC and be a potential week 1 starter. Where Ritter might be the value, though, if he can get that round 1 capital and get a team investing in him, to that degree. All these quarterbacks, you just get drafted in the 1st round, and that generally guarantees at least 1 or 2 years of starts.
Mm-hmm. Do you have anybody? Were you just jumping on Ritter too? Do you have anybody that you thought helped themselves?
I'm sorry. No.
Go on.
Okay, I will. Christian Watson, I think, is one of the biggest winners. Hardcore athletic.
Is it Christian Watson?
No standouts.
A wide receiver?
Yeah. Oh, are we just doing quarterbacks?
Yeah,
or
going position by position, bud.
God damn it!
Get with it. Pay attention when I talk.
Good. It's Ritter then.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think any of the quarterbacks outside of him really hurt or helped their stock too much. I mean, Willis was like Ritter, had a very positive in interview remarks.
And got caught being a good human being on game.
Yeah, got caught being a good, which never hurts. So I think that just solidified him going top 10.
Positive workout remarks on Willis.
Yeah. Too. Yeah. So there's no hurt to him. He didn't run, obviously, because he didn't need to. We all know he's very fast and athletic. So,
Anthony, thoughts on quarterbacks in the combine? I'm not a big combine guy like you guys. The only one that really stuck out to me is that wide receiver, and that's somebody who may have hurt their stock.
Okay.
Usually I defer to draft guys for draft content.
Sure, we'll get there, and we try to be draft guys. I will say this about the combine for how we use it, and this is worth noting for anybody that's tuning into our draft content, which is really what we get up for and the reason we keep doing this. Like anytime I've thought about quitting, it's like, no, but I still want to do the draft content. That's the reason I don't.
I'll feel that way about January, and then I'm just like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
We have draft seasons right around the corner, and this is where
this is
our bread and butter.
Like that with free agents.
Yeah.
I'm also the same. I love seeing the chaoticness of, especially with more trades happening too now.
So how we use the combine is this. Dan does a lot of statistical analysis. Deep dives that. I do a hybrid model between stats and film. And what I'm using the combine for is I'm using the combine to solidify what I think I'm seeing. If I think a guy doesn't have burst, is not athletic, doesn't have speed, and then they go out and run I don't know, we'll just throw a number out there, 4.6. That's going to back me up at the running back position, for example. That's going to back up what I saw. If I go out and think that and they run a 4.4, it's like, okay, well, maybe it's just game speed. Maybe I didn't see that right. Maybe I need to go back and watch a little more. The combine is not a tool that I form a lot of opinions on. The combine is a tool that I use to lock in a lot of opinions or determine if I need to go back and look at the other data I use to make a decision, maybe, and adjust. So it's a tool in the toolbox, but it doesn't hold a candle to film evaluation and statistical evaluation and using NFL, the last 10 years of drafted players for success baselines and everything and what they do.
Yeah. For me, it just helps complete the profile from an athletic. I will always defer film analysis to my esteemed co-hosts and then to the people within our dynasty space who spend all year doing this, and I'll piggyback off what they say to kind of help build my own expectations for these prospects. So I get a little more excited because I get to finally fill out my profiles on these guys a little bit more. But the combine is obviously what we don't have a chance to see, and that's the interview stuff, I think it's even more important. I just want to hear, I want to get as much glimpses into their mental makeup as I possibly can, because that's not something that we can track. And it's something that it's obviously
it's
can
so
completely destroy a prospect. What's that?
It's so important.
It is. Like, you can see what we think is clear, elite prospects, N'Keal Harry, and then we don't get to see what happens between the years until potentially draft night when they start to slide down the boards, and by that point, it might be too late.
All right, let's talk running back for a second. Dan, we'll let you start. Anybody who helped their draft stock at running back? And I think I know the answer to this one.
Shad White. Shad White probably the most, because of the top of the board that sucked, and outside of obviously Hall and Walker.
We're looking for somebody behind him.
Yeah, a lot of the middle guys, I mean, some tested better than others, but White's with his box office profile, size, speed, athleticism. He had a great final year.
Tyler Beatty's a guy that's out in that regard to me.
It's White is one of the easiest high up. I think he solidified himself getting at least at worst mid to late day 2.
Yeah. One thing about the running backs, by the way, none of them did agility drills because the NFL basically said it's too late. Let's go home. So that's why there's no agility numbers.
Pro day,
guys. So we'll have to watch pro days for that. Breece Hall solidified himself as the one in this class. So I'll just go ahead and piggyback that, because I think you're right. A lot of the middle guys, the Zamir Whites, Tyler Goodsons, Tyler Beatty's, and Rashad Whites, and Brian Robinsons and Keontae Ingrams of the world, the guys that are kind of fighting behind those top two that we're not really going to have a solid dynasty feel on until the draft, when we know what the draft capital is and where they land, and what their opportunity is going to be.
Yeah.
So for me, I'll just go ahead and throw it out there. It was Breece Hall. He tested better than I expected him to. When I watched him and Walker, they both obviously showed elite traits, and I thought Hall was a more rounded back, which is why he was my running back one heading into this. And then he went out and, from a speed and explosiveness perspective, a burst perspective, tested as good, if not better, than Walker, who I thought showed more of that on film. And to me, that was enough to just really solidify him in as the running back one. I already thought he was the most well-rounded back in the draft, and then solidified how well-rounded he was, but then also that, even though Walker's game film, I thought, showcased his traits a little bit more, even if it wasn't quite as well-rounded, that Breece Hall, at least from a raw athleticism standpoint, was right there with him. And that was enough to really separate the two and help me make that little tick of an adjustment and determination.
I don't know how much stock you would put into this, but did you see the tweet by Next Gen Stats about Hall saying that he's one of 6 running backs since 2003 to earn a Next Gen Stats overall score of 99. The others, Najee, Etienne, Saquon, Derrick Henry, and Bush. I don't know how much stock you put into this, but if people are saying, okay, he's a number one back, I look at that. I can pretty much put 2 and 2 together and roll with that. And of course, landing spot is everything for me.
It is. And for backs, it's going to be, because it's going to be opportunity, and it's going to be opportunity in the first contract for backs in Dynasty.
Not be surprised. And I tweeted this after Hall had his full combine numbers come out. If he does now go run one, Hall is one of the best prospect profiles. I mean, we could say we've seen since JT. His comps are fucking insane. If he was a little bit bigger, he'll be up there with Barkley. Like him and JT aren't too far off. JT's a far more better runner, obviously production wise in college, but Hall is receiving.
He's more rounded.
The fact that his testing numbers are very similar. I mean, we'll have to wait and see what he does for agility drills, so we can hopefully get an agility score. But I mean, as of right now, it's insane RAS score. He's got a great grade, from Lance Zierlein. It's Breece he isn't a tier of his own. I have him in a tier above Kenneth Walker. I fully believe Breece will be a late first round pick in the actual NFL draft, which will skyrocket him. Like he's almost close to a top 10 dynasty running back right now.
Yeah, you want Atlanta
just
to
given
retool?
His age and Lance Bates.
You want Atlanta to retool? I'm just saying.
Yeah,
landing spot.
I mean, I would love it because it'd be great for fantasy. I don't think it's the right move for actual NFL.
I don't either.
But
anyway,
I'd take it all day and twice on Sunday. So,
guy that hurt themselves, and I'm very happy to report on this one. Isaiah Spiller had a terrible combine.
It's not as bad as Kieran Williams. We'll just say that.
Yeah, Williams was not great either, but
Williams was far. I mean, at least Spiller didn't run a 40.
You know what?
Because Williams completely tanked his stock.
If Spiller had run a 40, it would have been damn near the same. I would just say this. What was bad about this is the people that you thought were the backs behind Kenneth Walker and I don't care who you are.
I don't think Spiller's changed as much though.
I think
because his expected DC it hasn't really changed.
You know what? I will say this, Dan, and this will clear everything up because we're going to argue about this all off season.
We probably will.
Every year, there's a back somebody likes. There's a back that everybody's consensus on, and I despise them. I hate them. I don't want anything to do with them because I don't like what I saw. I don't like what happened, and there may be flashes of me being wrong, but I haven't been wrong on one yet. And I'm talking about right now, the guys that's happened to are Cam Akers, which Achilles injury. I can't victory lap that, and I won't. But so far, Cam Akers, who's flashed, haven't put it all together yet. Rashad Penny was a guy people were hyping up and excessively high on that I was never bought into. Mm-hmm. And who's the other guy? Dan, help me out here. Who do I hate? Who do I hate more than any other running back?
I mean, Devin Singletary. I mean, it's very rarely.
No, I hated Devin Singletary and Zach Moss.
We both hate the same player. Yeah. Rojo is also when I fell off the complete deep, and I was so off of him after his combine numbers came in.
He's bounced around between the Chargers and the Steelers, and I don't know why I finally forgot his name.
Oh, James Conner?
No,
I'm sorry. No,
Chargers and Steelers.
He was Chargers. Yeah. He was Steelers. He was a guy. He was a San Diego State college back that had like 5 and 7 touchdown games and.
What the no?
No, not Pumphrey.
No, not Pumphrey. I mean, he was
Jalen Samuels. I don't know.
Oh, Jalen. No, but we also didn't like him either.
Hold on, I'll find it. Just
Steelers.
But anyways. Walker's the one, or not Walker. Williams is the one that tanked his draft capital the most because his camp should have told him to not run the 40. Like his advisors failed him. Spiller's probably not going to run particularly well, but we don't know that, and I don't think that's hurt his draft stock enough because there's a lot of you're the only film person that I know that doesn't like him.
Yeah, because everything on his film scares the shit out of me. He dances behind the line. He doesn't get downhill. He doesn't show explosiveness. He doesn't show the ability to run away from everybody. He just kind of gets up to the line and hoop-de-doops and picks up 4 to 10 yards and gets tackled from behind, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, and I mean that's why its comps have all been Le'Veon Bell, like because
everybody gets a Bell comp that bombs every year. I mean, I went back and actually looked at this, and I plan to have it fully put together for a running back episode because I didn't think I'd debate this until then. I went back and started looking at backs that have gotten Le'Veon Bell comps over the last several years, and it's not pretty. Le'Veon Bell was an outlier of a prospect. So Le'Veon Bell comps are going to miss more than they're going to hit.
I mean, at least he got round 2, and he was a pass catcher.
From a DC
he was just slow.
You don't know what Spiller's DC is going to be yet.
I'm just, of course, it's all expectation. I'm just going off of what I see. And you're right, he could fall out of day 2.
I bet he does.
And then I will readjust.
I'd be willing to bet that he falls out of day 2.
Yeah.
Kalen Balazs.
Oh, Kalen Balazs.
He played in Pittsburgh.
Right.
He briefly.
Was it Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
It was Miami and Chargers.
Miami. It wasn't. I thought he was in Pittsburgh briefly too.
You might be right.
He was with Pittsburgh in 2021. He started 0 games. He played in 17 for Pittsburgh last year.
Oh, okay.
In 2020, he was with the Jets and the Chargers, and before that, he was with Miami. It's Kalen Balazs.
I can't believe I would hear a Kalen Balazs name in this show anymore.
He's another one people hyped up. He got 4th round draft capital, and he's god awful. So.
Which is still day 2. What Miami does at running back, by the way. Speaking of the Dolphins.
Brees Hall.
Well, yeah.
I want.
I really
I
think
want Raheem Mostert. That's what I want.
Oh, I mean, if they don't go rookie, sure.
Yeah.
It's gonna be all the Niners casts away.
Yeah.
That Mike McDaniels can just pick back up.
So I found the back that we're going to differ. I found the player because there's one of them every year too that you and I are probably going to argue about the most pre-draft. So that's good.
But it's not Spiller and it's not Kenny Pickett.
Well, and it'll probably be Spiller and Kenny Pickett.
It'll be Spiller and
honestly,
Pickett
there's
too.
probably going to be a wide receiver that comes in there too. As soon as I start diving into that, there's going to be somebody.
It'll always be that. There's always at least one of those three. Tight ends we don't really care about because who the fuck knows who they are after until the first, until year 3-4 anyways.
All right, wide receiver, Anthony, go. You said you had a wide receiver that hurt himself?
Yeah, wide receiver that I thought might have hurt themselves depending on how much stock you put into it. Traylon Burks didn't have the best combine, didn't test the greatest, especially with the 40. How do you think that affects him or doesn't it affect him? I saw that he was 22nd out of 33 receivers in the 40, and his cone drill wasn't the greatest. Does this hurt him for you? And if so, how much?
So with all the other non-high 40 time receivers that have blown expectations, I don't think it hurts him too much. What scares me is one of his biggest athletic comps is N'Keal Harry. Like it's like that. I mean, he's also with other good ones, and Harry's profile was elite. Besides the between the ear shit, so that one I'm just like, please don't fall, that far. But
yeah, I'm looking at
his game speed was also incredibly well. Like I think one of the on track miles per hour data that I've seen out there clocked him going at like 21 miles an hour, one of the fastest wide receiver marks amongst his class. So his game speed will play a lot faster than the combine. You can say that it's a little discouraging that he couldn't show up athletically with him supposedly being a athletic freak. It's a little discouraging to see a 4.55 and a pretty bad vertical score, but yeah. I mean, he's still 6'2", 225. They ran a 4.55 40 that has a very good speed score. So
yeah, he's 87.
He's not falling out of the first round. He's still a first round.
87th percentile size adjusted, which is okay.
Yeah.
And let me go look and see what the baseline is for running back for wide receivers in the 40.
It may have been because Wilson had a good, a combine that may have overtaken. Wilson also has the highest odds to be the first receiver drafted right now amongst most Vegas and betting sites. So I don't think it hurt him too much. But I know a lot of people dropped him into just a cluster of guys with London, Wilson, Jameson Williams. I've seen some Olave up there. I wouldn't have Olave that high, though. The one that hurt himself the most might be David Bell. And that's because I keep saying that it's starting to look more and more that this class is Tyler Johnson. What I mean by that is the community absolutely loves David Bell, but the NFL is telling us otherwise. And we've learned hard with Tyler Johnson, and now we got to be careful not to make the same mistake with Bell with how bad his athletic numbers were.
So here's the athletic criteria I pinned on wide receiver, by the way, and this is based on it's basically based 2010 through today. So 12 years of wide receivers, excluding the previous 3 years draft classes because you don't know what their outcome is yet. So basically 4.58 is the number you have to be under for a 40 time to have some form of success at an NFL level. Basically, grab a starting job, hold on to it, maintain it, and consistently be in the top 24 to 27 receivers. 4.58 is the number you're looking for in the 40 or lower. So, I mean, he hit that from a burst score, which is the other thing that was a little low. It's only 103.5. He was above that. So, I mean,
I'm surprised 4.58 is the base level.
Yeah, they're not super cool.
Because he just said Cooper Kupp is, he ran a 4.62.
Yeah.
Well, guys like Michael Thomas, I think for the Saints too.
And again, it's outliers, and what got Cooper Kupp was the agility score, and that's a very particular. I brought this up to Miguel when we were talking Hunter Renfrow too. There's a very particular type of receiver that can hit nothing else but agility and be successful. And the guys that play the slot a lot, and Kupp's raw route running ability, I think, also is not something that's going to show up in combine numbers. He's a very heady player.
Well, that in the 40 time is becoming more and more less accepted as a good it's a good kind of meter for wide receiver, prediction, success at the NFL.
Let me pull this.
Or not at the fantasy level.
Let me pull this up real quick too, and I'll give you some guys that are around that 4.55 mark.
I'm sure there's a lot of good and bads. I mean, speed score I always kind of lean on. And
yeah, size adjusted speed score is actually one of the biggest tells.
And if they're in early declare, because when the NFL tells you to come out early, it generally means it's a good thing.
Yeah. So 40 time. I gotta sort it real quick. Hold on. 40. Sort. Spreadsheet based. Okay. Oh, why did it do that? Oh, okay. That's why. Oh, because I'm looking at quarterbacks. Let me sort the right tab. This is why we do this live and don't edit, because you can watch me sort the quarterback tab, and I'm like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. Those times are way too high.
Makes for good radio.
It does make for good radio, right? There it is. Got it. Helps if you sort the right tab. Okay. Some other guys that were in the 4.55 range. Actually, it picks back up around the 4.55, 4.56 range because you get into some size. So here's some guys that were 4.55, 4.56 range. Jamison Crowder, Antonio Brown, Devontae Adams, Allen Robinson. There's some pretty good success there. Yep. Michael Thomas, DeAndre Hopkins, Des Bryant were 4.57s. The only guy that really busted in that group, basically between Jamison Crowder and Des Bryant that I just named, which is running 4.56 to 4.58, is Ryan Broyles.
And he was supposed to be. Then you had injuries come and really take that away from him, too.
Yeah. Cortland Sutton was a 4.54. Adam Thielen was a 4.54. Mike Evans, 4.53. N'Keal Harry, you mentioned him, 4.53. Also, Alshon Jeffrey, Corey Davis, Doug Baldwin, Deontay Johnson, Marquise Lee, Robert Woods, Kenny Golladay. So, I mean, that's all the way down to 4.5. So, I mean, you get actually a set of elite receivers when you get around that 4.55 mark. I mean, it picks back up there. So, I don't think it's an indictment. That's a long way of saying that I don't think it's an indictment. I do think that I haven't watched this film yet, so you will see how it plays with that once all pieces are put together. But I don't see that and think, oh, holy crap, I want to be out on Traylon Burks. I agree with Dan. It's David Bell that I heard a lot about that the combine numbers just completely shot me on.
It was, he was probably the biggest loser amongst these top receivers, especially from, again, I'll hit on it again. He's starting to look like this year's Tyler Johnson. There's still hope because athletic numbers don't mean as much for receivers, and the NFL's telling us that. Mm-hmm. But again, he is someone that's clinging to. If he gets day 2, I'm gonna feel a lot better. If he falls into day 3, he's probably gonna drop pretty far. It's just his comps get lower and lower then because of how poor his athletic numbers were. Still great production wise, broke out very early. So all those things are great to see, but it won't matter if he's, a 5th round pick and he's the 3rd, 4th fiddle on an offense.
Alec Pierce is another guy I want to reach out and just say helped himself
killed it
a good amount at the combine. He killed it from an athletic perspective. So, him
and Watson are 2 big winners.
Yeah, just missed qualifying from a statistical perspective for me. Particularly just not enough games under his belt for the career stats. Well, he did have enough games. Just productivity wasn't necessarily there. Not a high volume passing offense. So we'll see what the film looks like on him. Anything else on wide receivers? We're going to skip tight ends because they're tight ends. And we've already ran an hour and a half.
No, do you have anything else, Anthony?
No, I think we got everything on the combine.
Yeah.
All right.
So we're good.
Cool. Anthony, tell the folks where they can find you.
You can follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru. And, of course, follow the podcast, follow the website at the FF Faceoff and fffaceoff.com. Really excited to have Beer Fuel join the brand. We have a lot of great stuff going on. I can't wait for what we have in store. Aaron tweeted out, I think it was yesterday, that we reached over 100,000 website views. So that's a pretty cool milestone to hit. So
very nice.
Things are going in the right direction.
Hell yeah. Well, we're happy to be on board as we continue to be on the up and up and look forward to working more with it and, starting to fold in and merge together here as we move forward. So it's a super exciting time for us. I'm at Beerfield Hop. He's at Beerfield 30. The show is at Beerfield on Twitter, Beerfield Podcast on YouTube. And, yeah, you can get us wherever podcasts are. Dan, any parting words?
Oh, excited for this draft. Excited for new partnership. And thank you again, Anthony, for jumping on.
Absolutely.